All right, we're back. It's day 2 SEMA 2025, and I'm overwhelmed at this moment because I have one of the most powerful females in in motorsport, Loni Unser, who has joined me today, which is going to be a phenomenal story. I can't wait. We'll probably go over half an hour, maybe 2 hours. I don't know. The next guest can wait. But before we do that, we'll do the customary crack. What are you doing, Loni? Are you going sugar-free or sugar?
I don't know. What do you think? What's better?
You know what? It's the first one today, so I'll probably go all in on the sugar.
All in?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the same.
All right, let's go. So let's crack nice and close to the mic.
Oh.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well,
so glad to be here.
You
Thanks
too.
for having me.
Thanks for coming.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's really nice.
It's a good start to the day.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I don't know where to start. This is going to be very difficult for me because there is so much that I want to hear from you today. I don't know where to start. How about we just start with your last name? I mean, what a crazy last name. And you've done an amazing job to continue on this epic 4-generation-old legacy. Let's just start with that, and then we can talk about how you've just taken your legacy to a whole new level. Let's start with that.
Yeah, big place to start off.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Sometimes it doesn't feel real to me that I'm a part of the Unser family. It just kind of feels like I'm in this dream world. But I am so honored to be a part of the Unser family. So I grew up kind of hearing stories of my family racing. They were my heroes, you know. I would look up to them, I'd hear their stories. I'd think, man, I want to be a part of that someday. And believe it or not, racing was kind of never an option for me, even being a part of the Unser family. I was kind of discouraged from going racing. But yeah, it was always a dream because of my family, and now to be able to carry on the legacy in the best way that I can is super cool. It can be pressure at times, but I've turned the pressure more into a privilege of just kind of being able to have these really amazing people that I get to look up to.
So let's talk us through the generations. Let's start with number one. I mean, oh gee, like people kiss the Indy 500 floor. And the Unsers have mopped the floor at Indy 500. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so to go over the family tree really quickly, because I think that's the first question that a lot of people have. I joke that I should have T-shirts with the family tree on them and wear them around because I think that would clear up a lot of confusion for a lot of folks. But my dad is Johnny Unser, whose dad was Jerry Unser, who's brothers with Al and Bobby Sr., who people most know. So they're really well known for winning the Indy 500, and they're well known for winning Pikes Peak. So between my family, they have 9 Indy 500 wins.
That's crazy.
Which is the most family to ever have done that.
Crazy.
Yeah, so crazy. And even crazier, 26 wins on Pikes Peak. And that's not class wins. That's overall King of the Mountain wins, which is so cool.
Well, first of all, even to drive up Pikes Peak is scary, let alone to compete, let alone to win. I mean, let's touch on Pikes Peak. I mean, even you yourself, I mean, you could add your hat in there as a champ too, right? Talk us through that.
It's sort of funny because ever since I started racing in 2017, I always heard Pikes Peak. People would always ask me, Loni, when are you going to race Pikes Peak? And I would always kind of shrug them off because, to be honest with you, I never wanted to race Pikes Peak. I've always been a little bit afraid of heights. And so I'd shrug them off. And in the back of my head, I'm like, no way, never doing that. And as kind of my career started going on a little bit more and a little bit more, I got more curious about it as time went on. So I was racing in Spec Miata at the time, and I was living in Boulder, Colorado, which is close to the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in Colorado Springs. And my dad would come out to all my races. I was racing in Colorado Springs at their local speedway there, the Pikes Peak International Raceway. And I asked my dad, I was like, we had an afternoon free, and I was like, Dad, can you take me up Pikes Peak?
Just casually.
I want to see what all this fuss is about, right? Our family is well known for this. Show me what this is all about. So we drove up together. I think the top of the road was closed, but that was plenty enough for me. I remember driving up, and it reaffirmed that I never wanted to race Pikes Peak. I was like, this is terrifying. I looked at my dad and I go, Dad, how could you ever do this? How is it possible? Aren't you just afraid of the cliff drops at all times? Because there's 3,000 foot cliff drops. And he said, Loni, you just focus on the road.
Oh my gosh.
And then I looked at him, I'm like, you're full of it.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can just focus on the road. No way at all.
Yeah.
So I went on from that day forward, knowing that I didn't want to race the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. And
Sure you did.
yeah, kind of funny enough, like as time went on a little bit more, my curiosity continued to spike. People continued to ask me about it. And so there was a Sunday, the race was going on, end of June. I was living again in Boulder at the time, and I didn't have anything going on that day, so I was like, I guess I'll go see what this is all about. You know, people always talk to me about this race. And so I got a ticket. I went up by myself to the start line of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, roamed around, and that day I fell in love. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, because it was really a combination of the two things I love the most. I grew up in the mountains in Idaho, so I love the mountains, although I am a little afraid of heights. And I love cars and race cars and going fast.
Perfect.
And so from that day forward, I was like, okay, I know what I have to do 365 days from now. And so from that day forward, I just worked on the program, and I decided I was going to run and kind of figured it all out, put everything together, and ran the next year.
Wow. And so what was the first car? What was that? What car did you deliver that year?
So that was the Cayman GT4.
Yes.
So they're running the GT4 Trophy by Yokohama Tire.
Nice.
And it was all Caymans at the time. Now it's an entire GT4 class, but at the time it was all Caymans. And that was a really interesting year. I had a very big crash in testing. My first year on the mountain. Fortunately, I was okay.
I've seen that where you go straight into a rock head on, right?
Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't off one of the cliff drops, because that is the stuff of my nightmares. But it was into a field of rocks. We didn't think I was going to be able to run that year. And I had an amazing group of people rally behind me.
Wow.
And folks at Porsche Colorado Springs, they were helping me out that year. They were like, we're going to get you back on race day. It was on a Thursday, and then the race was Sunday. So I didn't think it would happen, but they rallied together. We had people driving from Los Angeles through the middle of the night to get parts to us.
Wow.
And really, really incredible people worked on the car, and we got it back up and running, and I finished second that year in the class, which was really cool.
So we'll get through that. Because you continued on, right? So that was your first year, and then what was another 4 years after that you were in it?
Another 3 years after that.
Okay, so that was the first of four.
Yeah.
And then so it continued on, and then you changed classes, right? You went to a couple of different ones. Obviously, the last one was twin turbo GT3, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what cars did you run through the rest of the years? Was it Cayman the rest?
No, it actually wasn't. The next year, I got a really, really cool opportunity with Honda HPD.
Okay.
And they asked me if I wanted to drive their Acura Integra Type S. And I was immediately like, yes, this is the first opportunity that I ever got to really drive with a manufacturer.
Nice.
And it was really cool. I got to go to their facility in Santa Clarita in California. We did a bunch of testing and development on the car, and I ran it the next year. It was amazing. The car never really had enough power to be at the top of the class, but it was a great way for me to get back on Pikes Peak and racing, and it takes so many years to really fully get a good grasp of the mountain.
Some of us never get a good grasp of the mountain. Yeah.
And I think I've worked very closely with Jeff Swart, and he's been racing the Pikes Peak Hill Climb for the last 20 odd years, and I think he will tell you that even he doesn't know it as much as he would like. He knows it better than anybody else, but there's always something to learn about it. So that was a really great way to learn more about the mountain.
So then, what car did you have for the next 2 years? Because there was 4 in total, right? So we went the Cayman, we went the Nissan.
Yep.
What was the next year after that?
So I started off the first 2 years in those around 400 horsepower cars, which were amazing and such a great way to, again, build my skills. And then in 2024, I got the opportunity to race some beast of a car, built by BBI Autosport, and that was a Porsche GT3 911 991
Wow.
that had won its class in prior years, and it made at elevation, it made about 900 horsepower.
Insane.
At 850, I would say. But at sea level, of course, it makes quite a bit more.
Yeah.
And we were testing it in Willow Springs in California.
Nice.
And the car was so cool and so fast that I was getting wheel spin down the back straightaway in
Wow.
6th gear, which is
Wow.
crazy.
It's crazy.
So much power.
Because that bad boy's twin turbo, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
that one was twin turbo.
So, and talk us through that. I mean, I so much more to talk about, like talking about, you being a 10-year-old on a quad bike, ripping around where you grew up. I mean, I'd love to talk about that too, but I just want to stay on this Pikes Peak for a little bit longer. Because the aero changes, right? So you got different aero, you got different horsepower. I mean, talk us through elevation, for example. People don't realize that, I think, right? So a naturally aspirated car just runs out of, naturally aspirated car runs out of horsepower, right?
Yeah.
So talk us through that part, because people, like you mentioned, like 400 horsepower. But if it's naturally aspirated, by the time you get to the top of a mountain, you lose horsepower, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So the top of Pikes Peak is 14,000 feet.
Wow.
So the air is quite thin, your body feels it, the car feels it. So they say that you lose up to 40% of power in naturally aspirated cars by the top, which is crazy. So there's a huge benefit to having turbos on Pikes Peak. So kind of that was the idea behind the 911 twin turbo.
Crazy.
Is you're going to lose less power, so you're going to be stronger at the top. And then what BBI has done the last 2 years, because I drove another 911, but the newer generation, same concept though, twin turbo, big aero, last year on Pikes Peak as well. But the aero, lots more aero is very beneficial up there as well, because the air is thinner. So what I love about Pikes Peak is it's such an engineering challenge as well for all of the engineers. So it's so fun because it's such a unique race, and that you have to be 10 steps ahead of the game in order to be successful, in my opinion, on Pikes Peak.
So it's crazy because, I don't know, I think Pikes Peak's probably, I don't know, it'd have to be the hardest thing to conquer. People don't realize, so there is so much at play. So in motorsport, I don't know, F1's great, love F1, big F1 fan. There's not much that changes over the 50 or 60 laps. NASCAR, maybe a little bit similar, tire wear, maybe fatigue. Pikes Peak, on the other hand, you're going up the elevation, so you're talking about 40% horsepower loss. So you're starting at 400 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower. By the time you get to the top, you've lost horsepower. So the turbos are managing your horsepower rating. Then you've got all these different aero packages, but then you're also getting lightheaded, right? So as you get closer to the top, I mean, I've been to the top of Independence Pass or somewhere at the top there. I don't know where it is. I forget. One of the top of the mountain there. I think it's like 15,000 feet, and halfway up, you're like getting lightheaded. So, I mean, you get to the top, and I'm not racing. I'm just driving a natural car. And it's like, oh my God, I'm getting lightheaded, and this is a thing. So, I mean, you are fighting all the elements on Pikes Peak, right? So, I mean, talk us through that. I mean, you literally have to be fit, strong, like insanely mentally focused, because you're also getting lightheaded while you're steering off, potentially falling off 3,000 feet cliff, right? So, I mean, that happens too. Like, it's crazy.
Totally. I actually think Independence Pass is around 12,000 feet, and Pikes Peak is 14, so that's even more. So you definitely feel it up there.
Yeah.
You certainly get lightheaded, but I am super lucky because I grew up ski racing in the mountains. So
here we go.
I grew up at elevation, running around the mountains. I was a little mountain goat kid, so
love it.
I feel like I adapt to the altitude quite well, me personally. So a lot of people will run oxygen in their cars. So they'll have an oxygen tank in the passenger side of their car and have kind of tubes that run through their nose.
Now we're talking,
Yeah. I honestly haven't felt the super crazy need for that because I don't feel that affected, but people do say it keeps you a little bit sharper. So for me, it's kind of a give and a take. It can be kind of a nuisance to have a tube in your nose when you're racing. But I like Pikes Peak so much because it's such a unique corner of motorsports,
Yes.
and you see really, really cool builds.
Yeah,
It's so much of a car show as much as anything. People come up with these creative, really cool cars to conquer this mountain, and big power. And if you go up there, you can sometimes see massive burnouts from the start
crazy.
line,
Yeah.
and just really, really cool stuff. And yeah, the engineering challenge, the whole challenge of it is so unique, and that's what I like about it, and that's what I think why I was drawn to it in the first place, is because how unique it was. There's nothing else really that much like it.
So what happened in 2025? You did something at Pikes Peak in 2025. What happened that year?
Yeah, so this year it was pretty cool on Pikes Peak,
Yeah.
in some ways. In other ways, not so much.
Yeah.
I'll explain. So I was lucky enough to be the fastest Porsche on
Really?
Pikes Peak this year,
Ah,
which was really cool.
Just happened to be the fastest Porsche?
Yeah, fastest Porsche.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, this year we weren't able to run to the top. So some years the race course gets cut short, so it's a 12-mile road, and we were only able to run about a third of it. And it was kind of crazy because it was due to wind, which
Yes.
I had not heard of
It's
before.
crazy, right?
Yeah, so the winds on race day were so crazy up at about 12,000 feet, where a lot of spectators were, that spectators were getting their windows blown out of their vehicles.
Wow.
Completely blown out, and then they lost a porta potty off the side of the mountain. Just
Wow.
crazy winds. So when we finished this year, the third of the run, it was sort of weird because we all looked up to the top of the mountain and we thought, it looks clear, why can't we just go? But I think they were concerned about big debris getting kind of blown onto the road from the wind, and there's a lot of blind corners on Pikes Peak, so if a big boulder got blown onto the road or blown on top of your car, it really would not be good. So we everybody on the mountain says the mountain decides, and it decided this year.
Yeah.
So I have some redemption because the last 2 years I know a time that I think I was going to be capable of, a final time up Pikes Peak, and unfortunately the last 2 years we weren't able to see that through. So hopefully in 2026 I'll get a bit of a redemption run and be able to go to the top.
Yeah, I read about all that, and I watched it, and like you said, the mountain decides, right?
Yeah, it does.
So, I mean, talk us about some preparation. Like, what does preparation look like? Because are you still driving Spec Miatas?
No, I'm not driving Spec Miatas anymore.
Because I know that Spec Miatas are a great stepping stone, right? For anyone who wants to get in, learn. I mean, I don't know why they're so, amazing to learn, but I mean, you'll probably tell me because you've got a lot more, you understand this better than me. But they say that is the best stepping stone, right? The Spec Miata classes, right?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to start my career in Spec Miatas, and it was the most fun that I've had in motorsports because you're constantly bumping, constantly touching, the racing is so close, and the cars don't have any power, but that means there's not that many stakes, and a lot of the tracks you're running on don't have as high of stakes. So it's such a great place to learn racecraft, to learn how to be close to other cars and compete at a pretty high level, because in a series like Spec Miata, if you lose any momentum, you're immediately getting passed by 10 cars. So it's so much fun, and I loved racing in Spec Miata. And then I went on to race the MX-5 Cup in 2021 it was, which was amazing. That's even a step up. That's crazy competitive. You can look at the Mazda MX-5 Cup and see some amazing races, like hundredths of a second finish, like photo finishes, just really cool stuff. So great place for me to learn, and then to be able to take all of that knowledge and then take it to Pikes Peak. And then I'm still road racing today, and in the last 2 years I've been with Kelly Moss Racing in Cayman GT4 in Porsche Sprint Challenge.
Yeah, so do you, when you're, like you said, Spec Miatas, MX-5 series, I mean, the only question I have is, hitting your braking points is so important in racing, right? So say they say, you have to brake and turn at I don't know, 100 feet away from the corner, or whatever it may be. What does it feel like hitting those braking points in a slower car? So, is it harder? You know what I mean? Because you're waiting for it, and then you're turning, and then you get into a car that's twice the speed. You're like, oh my gosh, here we are. Like, I mean, talk us through braking points, because I mean, braking is kind of more important than going fast, right? In racing, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's totally fair to say. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's funny because I do a lot of coaching in the industry and instructing, and it's always.
Have you got any spots free for? You know?
Always, yeah. It's never a problem to get people to speed up, but it's always so difficult to get people to hit the brakes as hard as they need and slow down. So it's critical. I believe racing is won and lost in the brake zones.
There you go.
It's crucial. You know, you hear my family would always say, oh, you know, you got to brake deep, brake deep, brake deep. And it truly is about how late you can brake and if you can still make it to the corner. I will say in a slower car, it's way easier to kind of hit your marks in that way. Things are coming a lot slower. It's a lot easier to pick your points. In a car like the Pikes Peak car with 900 plus horsepower, it goes by in an instant. And you're also so sucked into the speed that it's sometimes hard to get yourself to brake because you're just like, this acceleration feels so good and you don't want to hit the brakes. But obviously, especially there, it's really important because you don't want to encounter what's on the other side of not hitting the brakes.
Yeah, correct. And people get so caught up, you know, they think going faster means you drive faster. In actual fact, going faster you actually means braking harder, right?
Yeah, totally.
So talk us through, out of curiosity, before I move on, talk us through, like, for people who don't know, I'm no expert. I'm just, I'm just one of those guys. But talk us through. So we're talking about braking, how important it is. So even brake pressure, right? So that's measured, right? So if you're coaching people, I'm assuming you have maybe like a brake pressure sensor, so you know how much pressure they're applying. So two questions I'd like you to share would be, A, talk us through brake pressure, how important it is, and potentially if you're a new racer, getting over the theory that when you're in a normal car, you're driving, shopping, going through the mall, typically a brake pressure is applied slow into hard, right? So you're not coming to an abrupt halt, but in racing it's the opposite, I'm pretty sure, right? So it's an abrupt brake, and then ease it off, I don't know, let them nose the car down, turn the corner, things like that, right? I don't know. You're the pro. Talk us through.
I don't know. You seem pretty.
I don't know.
You've got pretty good expertise yourself because you're exactly right.
So.
The way that you approach the brakes on the racetrack is the exact opposite of how you do it in the street. So in the street, you want to reach your maximum brake pressure at the very end of when you're braking. So
you explained it so much better already.
No, you were great. But coming up to a stop sign, you roll into the brake pedal because you want to be nice to your passenger, right? You don't want to spill their coffee.
Yes.
But in a race car on a racetrack, you want to spill their coffee.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't have anybody riding with you. But if you do, you don't want to make it nice for them in braking. So up to a brake zone, typically like in, say you have a long straightaway leading into a hairpin corner. That would typically require very hard, long hit of the brake pedal. So generally you have your mark where you want to hit the brakes. You kind of know where you're going to, and you hit the brakes pretty much as hard as you can, and then you have that slow release coming into the corner. What that does is it gets the weight of the car on the nose, and then coming into the corner, generally in most cars you want to think about trailing off the brakes to keep that platform of the car nice and steady. But again, races are won and lost in the brake zones. It's
crazy, and and like you said, it's complete opposite, right? Yeah, so I think I was I did a quick lap, in a cup car.
Yeah.
And the pros literally, if the straps of the harness aren't, you're hitting that braking point and you're almost going to fly out of the damn windscreen. You know what I mean? So it's really aggressive, right?
Totally. And
people don't realize you're doing that 12 times or 20 times a lap. You're, going to fly out the windscreen. It's hard to explain, but it's literally going from 100 miles an hour to 0 in an instant, right?
For sure. And whenever I give people hot laps and they're riding in the right seat with me, that's the first thing they say. They're like, oh my gosh, you hit the brakes so hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, you see a lot of people too timid of doing that. But these cars are built for that.
Yes.
You know, they're built, especially a Porsche Cup
Yes.
car. It's built for braking hard, braking late, kind of throwing you into your seatbelts and out your windscreen, as you would say.
So actually, I want to put it out there. If I wasn't wearing a harness and you were to go, if you were to apply proper brake pressure like you would in a race, I'd fly out the windscreen. That's how aggressive it is, right? Like,
totally.
It's that aggressive.
It's that aggressive.
Yeah. People don't realize how aggressive it is and how hard it is for you to do what you do. Like, you are literally pumping that brake pedal crazy. So talk us through pressure. Can you share that sort of number?
Yeah.
Is it like 50, 60 pounds of pressure? Like, I'm sure there's like or what's the, you know, like you've seen those lines where it's like, you know, oh no, you've got like another 20%, keep going. Is that measured in pressure or?
Yeah, there's different ways to measure it,
sure.
But
just like an indication, I guess.
Yeah, the easiest way that I would say to think about it is like, the brake pressure is so hard, and certain cars are different, require different amounts of pressure.
Fair.
I've raced a BMW GT4, for example. It has a very hard brake pedal, so you need a lot of brake pressure. The Cup cars, you need a little bit less, but it's all, you kind of have to get in the car and determine how much that particular car needs. Also, open wheel cars are different too, but it's really hard. And I would say generally, kind of if you think about it on a scale of 1 to 10, from a long straightaway into a hairpin corner, it's a 10 out of 10, as hard as you can, like punching the brake pedal.
Like you're physically standing on that pedal, right? Like it's tough. So
totally.
Actually, I had another question. I just about that. It was just all about racecraft. I'm just trying to learn about the racecraft. What was it? Oh, that's right. So, again, I'm probably trying to get all the knowledge out of you for my personal sake, but I know that you also have brake bias, right? So front and back. So one day I was racing a radical, and I was hard on the pedal, nose down, turning in, and I'm like, oh, I've got this. This is great. And then someone gets on the radio going, quit locking up the front tire. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm doing great. They're like, no, quit locking up the front tire. So even that, right, you have to not only jump on the brake, you actually have to feel the car, feel the tires. Like, is there a way of knowing that that's happening? Like, what should I be feeling?
Yeah, you know, you get more and more used to it.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all feeling. It's all seat time. Seat time in motorsports is so important. The more you can get behind the wheel, obviously, the better you're going to be able to feel things. And the more you can feel the car, the better you can drive. And that also comes to feeling the rear end of the car and what the rear end is doing. And then kind of in terms of brake bias, oftentimes in a race, a 35-minute race, I'm changing brake bias, you know, a couple times throughout the race, and you change ABS. So there's all these things that you're changing, but it just kind of comes with seat time. But what I like, obviously seat time is so expensive nowadays.
Yeah. I
love simulators. I think they're incredible for getting more seat time. And they give you a pretty good feeling, especially if you get a sim with a good steering wheel. You can feel a lot through the steering wheel and really understand what the car's doing through the steering wheel. And you can get ideas of things like that, of maybe when the fronts are locking. You'll feel it in the simulator, and you'll start to understand what those things are, and when it happens, what do you do, things like that.
That is a great segue into simulators, because there is so many options. Do you mind just sharing a couple brands or a couple of ones that you would suggest? Because actually it's really overwhelming. You can go from like 5,000 to, I don't know, 500,000. Some of them are phenomenal, right? So what would be a fair price for someone to kind of, you know, what would be a decent brand that you would recommend? What would be a fair price point of, hey, to get the full look and feel? Sorry, Jace, you're spending 70 grand, but at 6 or 10 grand, you'll be halfway there. Talk me through that, because simulators are so important. I'd actually like to share a story with you. So there's a guy called Brody Kostecki in Australia, and he was coming up through the ranks in V8 supercars. And I had this feeling that this kid was going to be like, I could tell like he was a great driver. He was just in maybe a car that wasn't performing. And so for about 2 or 3 years before COVID, you could just see he had something. COVID hits, they stopped racing, and then to keep fans watching, they actually started doing sim racing. And so Brody Kostecki is sim racing, and he's gone literally, I think, out of the 10 sim, promos they did, he almost won like 4 or 5 of them. I'm like, I knew there was something there. Well, 2 years later, he gets his chance to go in the top team, and now he's winning everything. So to me, like, sim racing is it's like that close. Like, you got the top 25 drivers, and this kid looked like he had something. I don't know why, I could feel it. Goes into sim, crushes it, gets a seat in the proper car, absolutely crushes it. So that's how passionate I feel about sim reality. Yeah.
Totally. I think nowadays racing is really expensive, and it's hard to find a way into motorsports. So I think for young kids who maybe don't have a clear path in motorsports but want to get involved, sim racing is so good.
Yeah.
I've known people who have gone from successful sim racing careers to successful real racing careers, which is so cool. And there's also money to be had in sim racing. You can make decent money doing it. You have to be very good and have to dedicate a lot of time, but there's a whole world out there that is really cool and that I want people to get more involved in, because it feels really realistic to me. You can't do exactly what you do in the sim in real life, right? But you can have a pretty good idea of it. You can work on all the same techniques. You can work on your racecraft. You can work on learning tracks. There's so many really cool things about sim racing that I love. And I think to answer your question of like, well, what do I buy? Where do I go? It's super overwhelming. The first thing I would suggest is finding a good sim company that has great customer support and service is really key, because setting up a sim and getting a sim up and running can be really tough with all of the technological side of things. And then they can also point you in the right direction of like how much money to spend, where to go, things like that. So a company that I've loved and used for a long time in my career is Ricmotech, and they have simulators ranging all the way from spending the least amount of money possible to spending a ton of money. So kind of the options are endless with how much money you want to spend. But one of the folks that I knew who went from sim racing to real life racing, he, I think, raced with a office chair and kind of just a little makeshift sim setup, and was really successful at it. So I think, if you want to do it, there's so many ways to do it. And if you want to get something super fancy, you can, but I don't think you have to by any means. I think the most important thing is having a good computer that's fast, have good Wi-Fi, especially if you want to race online. And then I really like to have a good steering wheel. So those are the things that I would focus on. The other stuff to me is a little bit less important, but yeah, you can work on stuff all the way as you go. I think a lot of people talk about motion in simulators, and I don't think it's that beneficial, to be 100% honest with you. I don't think it's to a point where it's realistic enough to get a ton of benefit out of it. Is it cool? Is it cool? And can it be beneficial? Sure. But I don't think it's crazy necessary. So yeah, good computer, good steering wheel, and you're off to the races.
So, and the company was called?
Ricmotech.
Spell it for me.
Ricmotc.
So like, yeah, got it. So like Ricmotech. Yeah. Okay, got it. And they're an American company?
Yes, they are. They're in Florida. They have amazing customer service. So I can call them up at any time and say, hey, I'm having an issue with whatever it is, because it seems I'm always having an issue technologically. And they help me out. So it's
And they have
great.
Different seats, like for a radical where you're laid back?
Totally.
Do you have one?
A simulator?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
I have used Ricmotech simulators all the time throughout my career, and I try to get on anytime I'm home, try to spend at least an hour on it a day.
Do you have multiple seats?
No, I actually don't have multiple seats.
You're like Porsche setup for life.
Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah, you can get different steering wheels, whether you want a circle steering wheel or a rectangle one, more like a formula car.
Yeah.
There's ways that you can set it up to make it like the car that you want to take to the racetrack.
Obviously, you've probably got a Porsche steering wheel, right, with all the adjustments, or not?
I do. There's a lot of. It's not Porsche branded,
Sure,
but
sure.
yeah, it's a good steering wheel. I like it a lot.
So, just a random one. I'm asking for a friend. Can you get like a discount?
I can talk to Rick Motec. They might even be here at SEMA.
I'm just asking for a friend.
Sure.
I'm just asking for a friend. So
I can certainly connect you with the right people.
Yeah. You know,
You're
asking
friend
for a
with
friend,
the right
right?
people.
That's cool. So let's go full circle. You're an amazing athlete, and what an amazing advocate for women in sport. Talk us through that. You know, that's how we connected through WIMNA and just like-minded women in motorsport. I mean, yeah, talk us through that. I mean, nice work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, being an advocate for women in motorsports was a decision that I had to make pretty early on in my career. And ultimately, what I want in racing is I want young girls and any women to be able to go to the racetrack and nobody point them out for being different. I want there to be a world in which you look on the entry list and you see it doesn't matter, you know, you're not pointing out, oh, there's the one girl in the series, whatever. I hope that there's a day that doesn't have to happen, and I want to see more and more women get involved. And so when I started racing, I was like, you know, it's this cool thing that I get to do. I'd love to share it with other girls, because, you know, growing up as a young girl, you're not talking about cars, you're not working on cars. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's so much less part of the culture. But there's such a cool world where I love motorsports because it doesn't matter who's behind the wheel, it doesn't matter who's behind the wrench, who's behind the computer. We can all do the same thing. So I am so excited to be a representative of women in motorsports, and I just hope to inspire young girls who come to the racetrack to see that, hey, I could do that one day too.
Well, definitely the sport's better off with you in it. There's no doubt about that, male or female. But unfortunately, I think people are going to keep pointing you out, and not because you're a female, it's probably because you're fast. So, yeah.
Well, that's what I want.
Yeah,
that's
they're definitely going to do that. So, yeah, I think you can have that problem forever. I'm so sorry. So, I guess, I don't know, is there any advice for young women going, hey, I don't know, get a sim? There is so many inspirational, some inspirational stories when it comes to success in motorsport, you know, but you know, like one of the ladies that I know, Sonia, you know, she broke her back and she did all these things, and she's like, if I get back out, I had a dream of being a drifter, and you know, and that was her driving force. You know, she got through all her injuries and now is an avid drifter and kicks ass all the time. And I'm like, shit, do I need an epiphany to do something cool like this? You know, so what would your advice be? Where would they start? You know, is it go-karts? Because at the end of the day, I'd love to know if there's a really affordable way of doing it, because, you know, starting young is tough. You know, they don't have a job. They're gonna have to turn to their parents for money. Is it in a four-wheeler like you did as a kid? You know, ripping around, you know, in the dirt. Where's a great place to start? You know, like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think go-karting is a great place. It is expensive though, like you said. So honestly, I mean, sim racing, go-karting, again, you know, you kind of have to be ready to spend some money.
Sure.
There are more affordable ways to do it, and you know, there's more expensive and more affordable ways to do it. But kind of with that, I would say the best advice that I can give is just to get out to the racetrack and introduce yourself to people, get curious about what people are doing. The network is everything. I've gotten all my opportunities from my network and getting involved with people and telling people what I wanted to do and what my goals were, and then getting curious about what they were doing and figuring out how we could work together on a project. So I think that's really important, sim racing. But then it kind of, in terms of the broader scheme of motorsports is such a massive world and massive industry that don't get pigeonholed pigeonholed into one thing, because
It's
you
a
know,
great point.
maybe you want to go dirt racing in the dirt, you know, driving a side by side. There's
That's
so
cool.
many different things that you can do. Drag racing, drifting.
Yes.
There's so many avenues. So I'd say kind of get curious about it all. See what fits for you and what fits for your budget, because I guarantee you'll be able to find something that kind of works for you.
Yeah, and I think maybe the only advice I would be giving would be, don't be scared to buy something that's crap.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you get a go-kart for $500, just get around the track.
Yeah.
Hit the marks, turn left, turn right.
Yeah.
If you got bad tires, it doesn't matter. It'll only make you better when you do get better tires. You know what I mean? So
I love that advice.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like just get out there. Whatever, you know, the cheapest possible way. You don't have to be first. You know, you don't have to be first to learn to drive. You know,
Totally.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
You know,
and
so
I think that could make you a better driver.
Yeah.
I actually love that you said that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was speaking with my boyfriend the other day, and his father, and he started racing when he was really young.
Yeah.
And his father would set his go-kart up to make it the worst go-kart in the whole field. And he would be understeering everywhere. and Cameron, my boyfriend, he started to figure out how to
Fellow
work around
Aussie, by
these
the way.
things. Yeah, fellow Aussie. He figured out how to start driving around these things and be better for them, and he
Yes.
started winning. And so people would actually go to his go-kart and copy his setup, even though it was terrible and not any sort of way that you'd want to set up a go-kart. And that taught him to be a better driver.
Yeah.
I'd say just make sure it's safe, but
Of
beyond
course.
that, I really love that piece of advice.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? There it is. It resonates close to heart for you as well.
Yeah.
Because I 100%, you know, truly believe that just hit the marks. To your point, learn to oversteer. Like, just learn to fail. Like, because
For sure.
you're always gonna fail.
Yeah.
You know, success is never guaranteed. So how about we get through the failures?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, the more that you fail, the quicker you're gonna win. You know, so.
Totally.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, like I said to you, I don't want people to feel like, you know, they have to have the bee's knees. You know what I mean? Even if it's a Australian term piece of shit, doesn't matter.
Totally.
It doesn't matter. You know?
Totally. It's going to make you better.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you more resilient. And unfortunately, racing is a place you have to be incredibly resilient. I
Yes.
mean, the things that I know everybody in racing has gone through. My family has crazy stories. I have my own stories of having to bounce back from incredibly difficult things, difficult times, cars that aren't working the way you want them to. It's going to happen, and might as well start when you're younger.
Yes.
If that's the way you have to start, is figure out how to be resilient.
Yeah. Yeah. The craziest thing is, I remember when I was racing, I'd be like, new tires are good for 3 seconds a lap, 2 or 3 seconds a lap. Can I have new tires? They're like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I suck. Yeah. Learn to drive through the tires.
Totally.
So I don't know if a lot of people know, but tires are like, I think, one of the biggest and most important parts of the car, right? So if you have a new set of tires or a bad set of tires, you're kind of done, right? Is that fair to say? So the whole time, I'm like, can I get new tires? No. Can I get new tires? No. I mean, they'll save me money for sure. They're like, learn to drive through them. Learn to drive through them. And at one stage, I had like tires that was 6 months old, which probably would have been good on the shelf, not on the car. Like, learn to drive through the tire wear. Learn to drive through the heat cycles. All these things. I'm like, oh, this sucks. But yeah, and then we put a new set of boots on or a new set of tires.
And you were flying.
And you're like, what? There's like grip.
Yeah.
I can turn.
Right.
I'm like, I feel like, I don't know, what's that? The Cars movie where he's like,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's cool. And then I think, I've never been in a flow state, but you talk about flow state. I'm not that good yet. I'm still fighting the car. I'm still worrying about braking points. I'm still trying to stomp on the brake pedal. So I'm not fortunate enough yet to have enough seat time to get into flow state, but I would love for you to talk about that, because that is like the ultimate feeling, right? Where you're one with the car, you're not, everything is, you're driving the car subconsciously now. Like, you're not worrying about what gear you're in. You're not worrying about, is my foot on the pedal, on the brake pedal, or is it on the accelerator? Where is it? So you get in this flow state where you're actually one with the car, and you actually kind of stop thinking. You don't even. You're kind of just. It's just happening, right? It's phenomenal. So I'd love for you to share that, because I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I'd love to know what it feels like.
Yeah, totally. That's the magic. I mean, I think that's ultimately what everybody in motorsports is drawn to, is like when you get in that flow state, there's no other feeling like it. And you don't think about anything else. You don't even really think about driving, to your point. You're just doing, and it feels incredible. But I think to get to that point, to your point, that so much hard work has to go in behind the scenes to get there. So I do a lot of visualization, so visualizing what I'm going to do. I can run the same lap time in my head as I do in real life. So it's something that's extremely valuable to me. All the seat time is helpful, but that's really where the magic is, and you're going to have so much more success when you find that flow state. But then also kind of with that, I think it's important to, when you get behind the wheel, not to think about everything that's going on outside of the car, in that, not thinking about what people are saying, not thinking about, what happened yesterday, what's going to happen, just worrying about the present moment. And for me, that always happens when I'm having fun.
I love that.
And I drive the best when I'm just having fun. And that's for me when the flow state happens, when it's like a dance with the car. That's when it feels the best.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the racing one last moment. Like, to do 50 laps or 100 laps in a race car, you are fighting the car. You are stomping on the brake pedal, shifting gears. Well, I don't know what you're shifting, but whether it's down here, up here, I don't know. But I just want to kind of make sure, it's just, I don't know what I'm trying to get at is, it's still work. Like, you are working that car, right? So, you leave the car, you guys look like nothing's happened. Like, you see the guys on F1, they get out, they look like they're fine, popping champagne, but it's been a mission in that car, right? Hitting those braking points and all the rest, right? So it's not as easy as it looks, is my point.
Totally. It can get up to 140 degrees in the cockpit of the car, so extremely hot too. You're working a lot harder kind of than you'd anticipate. Yeah. I'd say open wheel, you're working even harder than sports cars. Sports cars are a little bit less physically demanding, but certainly to be physically fit is extremely important in the car. It absolutely is a sport in every sense of the matter. And that's what I also love about it too, is I love being able to be the driver who's kind of the strongest at the end of the race, not at the beginning of the race.
Love that.
And being comfortable with being uncomfortable because of the heat. You can just be absolutely drenched in sweat, and you have to push through that feeling of uncomfort, and you have to do that while going 160 miles an hour, focusing on what you got to do.
Gee whiz. Yeah, I can't wait to rewatch you rip around Pikes Peak, man. What an amazing video. So I guess in closing, do you have anything for up and coming males and females, people like yourself who have to fight through, even just legacy, you know what I mean? There's so many things that you've got to share. I don't know, there'd be a million things that you'd like to do in closing. I'd love for you to hear what you'd love to share with the crowd, in closing.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I think the first most cheesy answer is work hard. Anybody can tell you that, but it's a sport where you have to be 110% in it if you want to be in it and be successful at it. So that's kind of the first piece of advice. And for me too, like I was saying earlier, that your network is your power.
Sure.
I've gotten so many amazing opportunities by meeting and getting to know really cool people doing cool things, and always believe in yourself. I think, although I know for a fact there's always been people who've believed in me, there's been times in my career where I felt like people didn't believe in me, and ultimately it doesn't matter what other people think. You need to believe in yourself, and you need to believe that you can make it happen, and I guarantee you can make anything happen.
Well, you certainly proved that, so yeah, I can't wait to do this again sometime, maybe next year or in future. But oh my God, it was an absolute honor to share this hour with you. I appreciate that. I'm sure the fans at home will appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much, and let's do it again, eh?
Likewise, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks. Thank you.